Hi, welcome to our latest webinar. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Alex, and I'm our relationship manager here at Ride with GPS. If you missed our last two webinars, you can check those out on our YouTube channel. There is a link to the playlist that we can put into the chat if it's not already there. As usual, my coworker Kevin is moderating the chat. Today, I will be covering our latest release on our website, the brand new map view for rides. If you have any questions along the way, please place them in the chat. Either Kevin will be able to answer in the chat, or he'll give me the questions to answer here on the screen. We'll be able to cover anything about the new map view for rides, as well as anything else on our website or mobile app. So let's dive into the feature now on ridewithgps.com. So here you see on the screen is my home page, my dashboard. This new feature is available on the rides page, so you can access it from the tab on the left column or from the Jump To menu, Jump To Rides. So as usual, you'll see your list of rides. Nothing's changed here, but what is new is the Show Map button here in the upper right corner. When I click it, it's going to show me a view of all of my rides that I've ever taken, either recorded with the Ride with GPS app or uploaded from a bike computer, like a Garmin or a Wahoo. You'll see these green icons, either green arrows or numbered clusters. And when I hover an individual icon, it'll show in red. When I click it, it'll center. For the clusters, I can click a cluster and it'll show a list of all of those rides on the left column. I can hover over each and it'll reveal that ride in red, or I can click it to show it centered on the screen. Above the map, you'll see the same filters you're used to on the rides list view, and I can hone those to show which rides I want to see. And so whether I've already clicked a cluster or if I'm viewing my entire view of rides, I can either filter by distance, and you see that those icons pare down and the cluster numbers get smaller. I can do that same thing with elevation gain. Can even find a pretty narrow window to see which rides. Same with moving time, average speed, average watts, and ride date. But also keep in mind on the right side of the screen this sort by, which I find handy in this list view, sorting by date, by name, ascending or descending, same with distance and all the other stats or metrics that are available on this row. Also on the map are these purple lines, this personal heat map, which I went over in our first webinar back in March. So that's available to toggle off or on. Also available is our global heat map, which will show not just where I've ridden, but where all of our users have ridden. And just like on our route planner or when you're viewing a ride or route, is changing the map style. So speaking of personal heat map, one very cool feature about this map view for rides is including a feature that we first added to our mobile app, the new Explore page called Inspect. And I covered that in our last webinar a few months ago. And so what Inspect does is allows me to click on any point of the map, whether I've ridden there or not. And if I have ridden there, it'll show me which of my rides pass through that point. And so as I have clicked here at this intersection, I can hover over all of these ride entries on this list and see when I've ridden here. So this is really handy for maybe I know I've been out here, obviously, because it's on my personal heat map, but I don't remember when. I don't know what ride that was. So let me click it. And let me remember, back in April of 21, it took me this long. Pretty helpful if you can't remember when you rode there. Or perhaps if you want to take a couple of your rides and morph them into a single route. And so, but back on this point, I've ridden through here a number of times, but let's say I wanted to ride past here again, but I don't have a lot of time, just a couple hours. Let's see if there's a ride that I did that was between 3 and 4 hours. See if there's a reasonable one. So looks like I've got 4 different rides between 3 and 4 hours. And I can take this ride and I'll open it to view in full. See, I've got some photos added too, and those show up on the map. But I want to take this and turn it into a route, so I can go ride it again and share it to my friends. So I'll click More, Open in Route Planner, and I'll trace it down here with Trace and Auto Trace. So I'll come back to that. I can also use it to filter for distance, like I showed earlier, where I can clear out this filter and see which rides are more than, say, 36 and less than 58, and that's going to show all of those. But this is in Portland, so I'd like to see somewhere else. Let's see a start location. We can say Hood River. So now I've got these 2 rides here and here that start within 10 miles of Hood River. And I can change that to be more if I want. And if there's any results that match that, it'll update. But again, I can click on each of those and use my location to change that. I can also use keywords to search, like all of my Rond, special ride here in Portland. And as always, I can go back to my list view if I don't want to view the map anymore. And it'll keep those results and show them on the list view. And I can go back to the map and still has my starting point for that search. So one thing I really like about inspect is remembering different times that I've passed through different points. And a place that I've always had a hard time doing that is on some trail rides here in the Bend, Oregon area, where it's got a lot of trails. It's pretty dense trail system, and so I can click and remember, relive each of these times that I've passed through this specific point. So the map view and the starting icon clusters are available to all of our users. The personal heat map, global heat map, and the inspect tool, so clicking on a point, that is available to paid premium subscribers. So if you want to access the inspect option or the heat maps, you'll need a subscription. We do offer week-long trials of the premium subscription here on the website. If you have any questions about map view for the rides page, I'd love to hear them and answer anything. I will mention that this view is currently available on rides, but soon, in a couple weeks, it's going to be available on your routes page. And so I do have that enabled on my account, and I'll just show you a quick preview here. Routes, similar list like on the rides page, similar show map button. And let me get over here. Similar rides view. So we're still ironing out the last few details here, but expect to see that coming out in a few weeks. So if you have any questions about map view for the rides page, let me know. If you have any questions about anything else on our website or mobile app, happy to answer those right now. Kevin's gonna give me some questions, so put them in the chat if there's anything you'd like to learn about. So got a question about changing start location. And that's a great question. Something that we field a lot. And so how about I come to our route planner here. Here's that ride that I pulled in. This question's from Bob. So I added this ride and I traced it, so now it has a cue sheet. But there's, it starts up here, and it's kind of a little ways out of town, and so I want to change the starting point, and there's a couple ways to do that. One is to click and drag the starting point to where you want it to begin. And the best way to do that is first by adding a control point. So I can do that from here on the right column. I'll click control point, and I'm going to click on the route line or on the elevation profile where I want to add that control point. And what that control point does is it locks in the route beyond that point. So I'll add it here, or I could also add it using the elevation profile. And that's especially handy because this is the beginning and the end overlap itself. So I'll also add a control point here from the elevation profile. So now I've added the control point. So now when I click and drag the start line, nothing on this side of the route will change. So I'm going to click and drag all the way to where I want to begin. Let's say, let's get it down here to kind of where I am now. All right, and so now the beginning of the route has been routed to here. But now the end of the route still ends there too, and I want to make sure I can get home with cues. So I can click Add to Route, and then click on the roads that I want to follow to get home. So I'll do that. I'll come back a different way. Now, that is one way to do it. Let me back up a few steps and show you a different way to do it. So now we're back to our usual way. Another way to do it is by using Add New here at the top of the left column. When I click Add New, you'll see that my route turns gray, and what I'll be able to do is either click on any point where I want to begin, like this, and then start planning my route to get to this point. So I know I want to go this way. And I'll be able to plan my route to get to this new starting point. And when I reach it, I want to click this green dot, and it's going to join this beginning in red to the rest of it. And I'll click that green dot, and there you go. So now it's continuous, but it still ends there. I want to route back to the office where I am right now. And so this is actually a brand new thing we added a couple weeks ago, is under the enter a location box, I can choose my current location. Since I have my home set, but I'm not at home right now, I'm at the office, I can select current location, and it'll take a moment to find me. And there it is. And it says route to here. And so since I'm already in the middle of planning a route, I can choose route to here, and it's going to take me from the end of the route, which is up over here, and then it's going to extend the route to where I am. So now that route comes back to my current location. And we can even change that like that. So now I use that current location to extend the route back to me. I can also use current location to start a new route. Start route here. So maybe I'm traveling from my hotel. I can use this without needing to know the address, and then I can start planning my route. And maybe if I'm traveling, I'd probably want to turn on global heat map to see where other Ride with GPS users are riding. So a couple ways to change the start of a route. Now, we can get a little deeper in that if you want. Let me, because we get this question a lot about is changing the start of a route that is a loop. And so this is kind of a loop because it's got a beginning and the end that tails off into it. But let's say I wanted to ride that loop part, but not the beginning or end. So I'm gonna, and then change the starting point. So I'm gonna select that first part, and I'm gonna click delete selection. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for the end. Delete. So now I have a loop, no beginning or end part that extends down and back on this road. But I don't want to start here. I want to start here in this town, North Plains. Good place to start a bike ride. So what I would do here is split the route, and I can click split route here on the right column, but I can also use right click with my mouse. So I can right click and I'll see all of these options, many of which are available here on the right column. Adding control point, custom queue, point of interest, or split. There's also this pretty cool show street view, so I can click that and show what it looks like in real life. But I'll right click and split the route. So now you'll see I have this route in two pieces. First part in red, second part in gray. But when I click the bottom unnamed route, you'll see now it's in red, and this part is in gray, and the start icon is here. So that's good, because that's where I want to begin riding. But we need to attach these 2 points. So all I need to do is make sure I have Add to Route selected, and click on this green dot to connect the 2 pieces. And now it's a single continuous route, not starting here, not starting here like it did before, but rather starting here. And when I save it, I'll be able to navigate it. I have another question about navigating a previous ride. So similar to this, it all started as a ride, and I turned it into a route. You can navigate rides on our app, but they aren't going to give you turn-by-turn directions. So say on this, since a ride doesn't have a cue sheet like a route would, it won't give you turn-by-turn directions. You can still copy this to your routes. So I'm turning a ride into a route. And I can view it, but you'll see it doesn't have a cue sheet. And depending on how you prefer to navigate, that may or may not work for you. If you're using our mobile app and you rely on voice navigation, you probably want a cue sheet to hear those cues. Otherwise, you're just relying on your screen being on, which can use a bit of battery life. So we want to encourage conserving battery life, keeping your screen off as much as possible on your phone. So that's why having voice cues is a good thing. If you are a Garmin or Wahoo user, you don't need cues on your screen as much, on your Garmin screen, Wahoo screen, you may not need a cue sheet, but best practice is to have a cue sheet for your route. And again, I can open this in the route planner by clicking edit or more, open in route planner, and I can trace it. So there we have my route. We've got our surface type, which I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned yet, but that's a relatively new feature that shows whether something is paved or unpaved. Red line is going to be paved, dashed line is unpaved, whether that's gravel or trail. You might see a little bit of unknown, which would be a solid white. That's not the case here. And as usual with planning any route, we can, in addition to having cues generated by the route planner, we can edit those cues, whether we want to add to existing cues, and that changes and is added to the cue sheet. Anything in the notes section is read out loud by the app or would appear on your bike computer screen. Or if I wanted to add a fully custom cue, I can click on custom cue on the right column, or I can right click on the route line, or I can click on the elevation profile. So I can add a cue, let's say that there's a gravel starting at this point. And then that'll show up in the cue sheet. If I wanted to visualize that or anything else, I can add a point of interest. Again, by clicking drop POI on the right column and then clicking anywhere on the map to add that POI. And whether that is you want to add in your coffee shop, you can reposition it after you've placed it. You can also right click to add a POI. And if I wanted to pair those together with a custom cue, I can add that too. So when I'm done, I can save this and I can edit the title if I need to. And save it and view. And you'll see both my POI are there. My custom cues will be listed in the cue sheet. And I can even easily access it on the mobile app. Down here. So here's our app. I can tap library, routes, and here I just created this one, Forest Park, where I can either download it offline so I don't need to use cell data, save some battery, I can put my phone in airplane mode if I'd like, or I can pin it. Now last time we looked at Explore down here. And so this is going to give us a view of different routes in the area that you're viewing. And similar to the rides map view, you can use different filter tools. And so when I tap on a cluster, it'll show some individual routes. And as I swipe through, those will be highlighted. And if I'm a subscriber with Ride with GPS, I'm able to download and navigate any of these with the phone to get voice navigation. If I'm a Garmin or Wahoo user, we do offer wireless sync so that I can save it from the app or save it from the website and then get it synced to my device wirelessly. So I can tap save and then save to pinned. So now you see it's been added to my pin section. I can even go to my library and see pinned here, same route. If I powered up my Wahoo or my Garmin and I've previously synced my device with Ride with GPS, this route that I pinned would appear there. In the case of your routes that you've planned yourself, like this one I planned myself, Wahoo, that route would be added automatically. Garmin, I think you need to pin it for it to show. Also on Explore, I'll mention you can show your current location and then also in the search tools, see what's nearby to you. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. So same on this page, you can, like on the website, you can turn on different heat maps or map layers. And of course, let's see what happens when I start navigating this. All right, so I'm recording a ride now, and I can tap to turn on global heat map. All right, so I got all that nice light blue, purple, red, lots of activity here in Portland. You also notice at the top of the screen it says I'm off course since I'm navigating this route now, and this route here in blue, I don't, maybe I don't know how to get there, and I want to get navigation to get to the start of the route. So if I'm navigating a route, there's this option, tap to route back to course. And so I can select that, and now, just like that, I have navigation from my current location, that blue dot, to get to, and follow this blue line with voice cues to get to the beginning of the route. And then, well, not necessarily the beginning, I should say, the nearest point of the route. So you can use that to get to part of the route and start navigating it once you reach that point. Pretty nice. And then when you reach the end of the route, we don't have an option quite yet to get you back to your original start, but there is an option, of course, to use the mobile route planner to plan extend your route, or follow your ride track to get you back to your original starting point. Now, when I'm done here, I'm able to end my recording by pressing the pause button at the bottom and tap finish. If I wanted to save this to my account, I could add my ride name if I'd like, a description, any photos I added, choose between which bike I rode, and then tap save. I'm going to delete this. All right. So that's a little more explore, like we looked at on the last webinar. Now, other tools that we get a good amount of questions about are getting another question now. So I know I mentioned this in previously on this screen, but we do have this current location option in addition to your home location, since right now I'm at the office rather than at my house. So current location is going to be different than my home location. So a quick and easy way to get where your route's going to start and then be able to plan from here. I can turn on my heat map or just my personal heat map. We do offer Google Maps in the website's route planner. So these top four map options, map, terrain, satellite, and hybrid, these all come from Google Maps. Everything else, RWGPS and all these other map styles, come from OpenStreetMaps. So you can toggle between each of those when you're planning a route. Any part of the route that you've previously planned in one map style won't impact the rest of the route as you're planning along. Did have a question about bulk deleting queues. And so depends how many queues you want to delete. If you don't want any queues at all, you can use the option to clear all queues here. And now this route doesn't have any queues. But another way, if you don't want to delete every queue, maybe there's certain queues you don't need. Say, for example, notice on this road, there's queues because there's roundabouts. And at roundabouts, we'll add a queue and say, in this example, take exit 1 onto Northeast 7th Avenue. Maybe you want to get rid of all those. And so you can delete queues one by one in this way. Click the queue on the left column, delete, or my preferred way is using review queues, the queue review tool, where you can visualize up close what queue that is, where it is, what type of queue it is, what it says, and whether you want to keep it, so confirm, or delete it, like in this case, at the roundabout. I don't need that. I'll delete it. Confirm. And there, now we get to my right turn. That makes sense. We can proceed. And even from this queue review tool, I can add points of interest, or I can add custom queues. I can add a custom queue. There we go. And even if I wanted to edit an existing queue, an automatically generated queue like this, I can add anything to the notes. And so then back on that queue, you see that that additional information was added. And then when I'm done, I can scroll down and click Close Review. I can also click ahead, I should mention, click ahead to any specific queues that I want to inspect, to look at, and then either delete them if necessary or expand on them. And when I'm done, I can click Close, and I'm back in the route planner as usual, and I can save. One thing that is also available regarding queues, if you don't want queues generated at all, is to turn them off. So up here in Settings, there is this option to generate queue sheet or turn it off like that. And now you'll see, as I click along and plan my route, this length of the route doesn't have any queues, whereas the beginning, these blue icons, all indicate a queue. So now when I've done this, I'm not having any queues added to the route. They all end back here. So keep that in mind if you don't want queues, but also keep that in mind if you did turn it off, the next time you come back to the route planner, it will stay off. So you might want to check there if you're not getting queues for any reason, is you've got it turned off under the settings. So another good way to get things into the route planner, maybe you don't want to plan from scratch, maybe you want to plan a ride, take a ride you rode and trace it. I can click this Import Existing button and I'll see a list of all of my routes and rides. But I can also search all of our public routes or rides and use them. So maybe I want to look at this. And so I have a ride I recorded that matches this. A club that I belong to has a result that matches this. And then there's quite a few public items, routes and rides that match this too. On this page, you'll notice what is a ride versus a route by this icon. And when I hover over it, you'll see it says queue sheet available. So this is a ride I did. This is the route that I followed to do this. So I can select it. I could even select other things. So let me select that one too. And I'll click Add to Planner. And just like that, I have these two different routes added to the planner. And if I want to use both of these for inspiration, but only end up writing for one, I can pick and choose, splice in together what I want to do. So you'll notice here, this CT Chenoweth Tableland Standard is selected now. There's the start icon. Got it in red. This goes counterclockwise. Then we have this other one that now it's pink, goes counterclockwise too, with a little out and back. So let's say I wanted to do this ride, but add in a little extra and cut out part of it. So what I could do is here I've got my ride start set. I like starting here, but I want to add in, rather than this out and back, extend along this way, and that this other route follows. So what I'll do is chop it up a bit. So what I'm going to do is use the elevation profile to see where I want to leave this route. So I'm going to click and drag until I meet back to here. So that looks pretty good for now. So I'm going to delete that part of this route. Okay, so now that route is in two pieces. This piece and then this short piece here. But I want to take this route, part of this route, and use it. So what I can do is cut out what I don't need from this route, like here. I don't need that. And then, let's see, and then down here, I can cut out this whole length to the end. Okay, so now I've got a couple pieces. This piece, and this piece, and I need to put them back together. So I've got part one. I know it's part one for me because that's where the start icon is. So that's good. I'll have that one selected first. Next thing I want to do is connect to this piece. So I know that starts there is because there's this green dot. And I'll click the green dot. Oops, what was that? Let's try that again. Click the green dot. There we go. And just like that, now that's one continuous piece. But then there's this short stretch I need to get to the end of the route. Not very far, but let's just make sure we get there. So I can either extend, hold on, might need to change something here like that. Doesn't want to route me that way. Might need to use draw lines. There might not be routing information in this part of the trail. But what I can do is link up to a road where probably gonna let this work. So now I've got that set, and I can come back to the tail of that last piece and do that. So now I took that first route, it started over here, came up this way, but the original two routes had a different middle section. So now I've got them all spliced together into a brand new route. And I can save it and use it and share it. It's got about 10 minutes left. Feel free to put any more questions you have in the chat. I'll mention if there's anything that I didn't cover or you'd like to learn more in depth about, we do offer 30-minute one-on-one video sessions where you can sit down with one of our support team members and they're able to answer any questions you have, walk you through anything on the website or the app or setting up your Garmin or Wahoo. So they're happy to take some time and get you set up with that. So I think Kevin's going to be able to put that in the chat for a link to schedule anything coming up with them. Another frequent question that we'll get is splitting or saving a long route and putting it into shorter routes. So that's another place where the split route tool comes in handy. Or I can click split, and if I want to create this into a 3-day ride, for example, I can split where I want day 1 to end, come back to this, click split again, or use right click to split to where I've got 3 different pieces that I can then save individually. And then go back to the route planner. And then have them all, rather than one long route, 3 routes. And I can either put those into a collection or an event under calendar, create event, or collection. And import those 3. And I can even add the full 30-mile loop too. So then I've got each route visible here. And then down here, all of them. And I can rearrange as needed, like that. I can even click share to copy the link and send it to a friend so that they can follow this collection, so that they have all of these in one place on their account too. You'll notice on my collections page, some of these I created myself. Some of these I'm following from other accounts. So not all of these belong to me. Some of them belong to organizations like Cycle Oregon, or clubs I'm part of, or just things that I'm interested in that I want to keep handy and easy to access. So collection is a great way to do that. All right, well, I think that is close to an hour. So I'd like to thank you again for tuning in today. Appreciate you taking the time to listen and ask questions. If you do have any additional questions, our support team's available 7 days a week. You can reach them at info@ridewithgps.com, and they can help you out. So